You know how we can be putting something together or building something and we usually just ignore the instructions, throw them out, or what have you? Well, when it comes to planning for the new year in 2026, let's actually follow a playbook. If you're within 5 to 10 years of retirement, 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most important planning windows we've seen in decades. Contributions are going up, tax rules have shifted yet again, and what you do for the next 12 to 18 months could impact your income, your taxes, and the flexibility that you have for the rest of your life. Also, I hope you like our new backdrop. Unfortunately, we had to take the carpet off the walls because of a fire hazard, so now it kind of looks more like a Picasso art besides a backdrop. So I hope you enjoy it. The abstract art looks great, I think. If you're between 55 and 70, the next stretch of a few years is going to be a critical point to start making smart decisions with your 401k plan, your Roth retirement plan, as well as your retirement income plan. Not because of fear or some gotcha rule, but because contribution limits are increasing yet again in 2026. There's been an introduction of more retirement-friendly deductions. The Secure 2.0 Act is now finally in effect, and the earlier 2026 sunset rule that everybody has talked about has evolved. So that means that strategy matters now more than ever. This is the moment where planning can equal massive benefits for the long term. I want you to think of retirement like flying a plane, right? So retirement's a landing zone, and the few years before you land is actually more important than the whole entire trip. So in 2026, contribution limits have increased for all employer-sponsored plans. They go from $23,500 in 2025 to $24,500 in 2026. So if you're already maxing out your 401k plan or your employer-sponsored plan, then just know you have to increase it this year if you want to continue to do that. And then also the catch-up increase is now $8,000 for anybody older than 50, okay? So now that means that you can put even more towards your retirement plan. So the government's allowing you to do that, so you should probably take advantage of it. Also, a new thing is the super catch-up. So if you're employed and you're age 60 to 63, if your plan allows, you can do a super catch-up, which even increases your contribution a little bit more. So look into that and see if your plan allows for it. If you're already maxing out your contributions, then you should be able to do this too. The combined employer and employee contribution limit is increasing from $70,000 to $72,000. So these increases mean that now is the time that you're going to be able to contribute more than you ever have. So meaningful contributions, and if you're 60 to 63, this is the time where you can contribute the most and make the most impact in your retirement plan if you're trying to catch up and make up for lost time. In 2017, Congress enacted the Jobs Act, which lowered the tax brackets for everybody. And there was a lot of speculation, so many financial articles coming out, oh, beware, 2026, taxes are going back up. Well, wrong. They're all wrong. Jobs Act now is made permanent. So whatever tax bracket you're in, that percentage of taxes that you're paying is going to stay the same. Unless you make more money, then good for you, but now you have to pay more taxes. So that sucks. That doesn't mean that the taxes won't ever change. Congress is always changing things and tweaking things. So that just means that we got to take advantage of it right now. So let's look on the bright side. What does all this mean? All I'm saying is I don't want you to panic. I don't want you to rush into making poor decisions. I want you to plan like the tax brackets are saying the same, because they are. I want you to treat these next few years as a planning window. Why, you ask? Because this hasn't changed, other rules in retirement have. So we need to plan accordingly, and we need to adjust our plan if we need to. So how will the new Secure 2.0 rules affect my 2026 planning? Well, I'm glad you asked. Your RMDs have now increased to age 75, so anybody born after 1960, RMDs are going to be starting at 75 as opposed to 73. So what this means is many people have a larger pre-RMD window, meaning that they have more time to make Roth conversions, more time to make strategic withdrawals, and also more time to smooth over their retirement taxes. 2026 is a part of this window for a lot of people. Inherited IRA rules still require most beneficiaries to empty out the accounts within 10 years. For 2025 and beyond, beneficiaries are still held to that rule, but it requires them to take RMDs within the first 9 years before the account is emptied. If you plan to leave money for your children, which I hope you do, relying heavily on pre-tax retirement plans could generate a huge tax bomb for them. So that's why planning now matters, and you still have time to shift gears while rules are still stable. Retirement rules don't change like an M. Night Shyamalan movie plot twist, but they do nudge the steering wheel. so make sure that you adjust accordingly, because if you don't, you might steer off course. Even without a tax sunset, 2026 is a perfect checkpoint year because you'll be able to maximize contributions under the higher limits. This might be a perfect time for a Roth conversion, especially if you retire before the age of 70, you haven't hit RMD age yet, you're not claiming Social Security, and you have an income need. Sequence of returns risk is highest in the 5 to 10 years around retirement. And this has nothing to do with Congress, by the way. This is everything to do with math. Withdrawal planning matters now more than ever. So even with stable tax brackets, when you pull from an account, whether it be a Roth, pre-tax, or non-qualified, determines whether your taxes stay manageable or they skyrocket down the road. So here's what you should be reviewing before 2026. Number one being your contribution amount. I always tell my clients that you need to be increasing your contributions every year anyways. So with the increase of contribution limits this year, you should definitely increase your contributions too. Another thing to review is account mix. Do you have a happy or a healthy mix between pre-tax, Roth, non-qualified, and cash? Most times, people with only a traditional 401k or IRA have the least tax flexibility in later years. So something to think about if you don't have a Roth account yet. Retirement income strategy. Your withdrawal strategy is going to be more important than your investment strategy. Why? Because you want to make sure that you're not outliving your assets. You spent all this time gaining them. Now you don't want to run out before you die, pretty much. Future RMD projections. You want to avoid getting forced into high taxable withdrawals at 73 and 75. And then lastly, but most important, is you want to look at your beneficiary and estate alignment. Are they aligned? Are your beneficiaries the trust that you have set up, or are they the beneficiaries? Really, they both avoid probate, so they're good either way, but I always tell my clients that they need to have a trust installed because it avoids probate altogether and you have all your designations left to the trust and then the trust is left to your heirs, which is perfect. Absolutely need to look into that, either getting that set up at the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026 if you don't have one set up. Very important. You know, I say that this is something that you should review before 2026, but know that you should be reviewing this every single year. Retirement planning is not just a one-page document inside of a binder. Think of it as a garden, right? You're not just going to plant and then completely forget about it because all the flowers are going to be dead. You want to make sure that you're tending it, making sure that they grow the way that you want them to, just like your retirement plan. So let's recap. In 2026, retirement contributions go up. The Secure 2.0 rules, many of them are going into effect, like the inherited IRA rules. Tax brackets are going to remain the same because the Jobs Act was made permanent. Roth conversion opportunities remain alive and well. Yes. And the delicate decade still continues to prove to be one of the most important planning windows in retirement. And remember, I want the takeaway for this to not be fear. I want you to think of opportunities. How can I better impact my financial status? I'm Tommy Warner. Thank you for coming to this episode of Tommy 2 Cents. Take it easy.